Listening is an act of love. Thank you. You can help lift up the voices, stories, and challenges we share by making a contribution at thiswayout.org.
A sincere thank you to all of you who already support This Way Out. Your support matters.
I'm MR Raquel.
And I'm Michael LeBeau.
With NewsWrap, a summary of some of the news in or affecting LGBTQ communities around the world for the week ending November 20th, 2021. Thailand's Constitutional Court has rejected marriage equality. In a November 17th ruling that passes the buck to lawmakers, the justices wrote that the Thai parliament should draft laws that guarantee the rights of gender-diverse people. The plaintiffs in the case were a lesbian couple whose marriage registration application was rejected by Bangkok civil authorities. The High Court found that the civil and commercial code's understanding of marriage as exclusively heterosexual does not violate the Thai constitution. Bills to legally recognize gay and lesbian couples have failed in the past few years. The government's most recent bid to advance a less-than-equal civil unions bill was opposed by some LGBTQ activists. A new marriage equality bill has been introduced by Move Forward Party Member of Parliament Thunyawaj Kamalwongwat. Human Rights Watch senior researcher Sunai Pasuk wrote on Twitter that the Constitutional Court ruling renders the government's pledges to promote gender equality meaningless. Thai historian Chanam Yadhang responded to the decision during an online panel discussion reported by local news outlet Coconuts Bangkok. He said that the court makes the institution of marriage look feudal and something bound only to male and female. A protest demonstration is set for November 28th.
The Swiss government has set the date for the nation's first legal weddings of lesbian and gay couples, July 1st, 2022. They can also convert their registered partnerships to marriage on the same date. Lesbian and gay couples have had that less-than-equal legal option since 2007. Couples who have legally married abroad have also been recognized only as registered partners. They can have their status upgraded to full marriage on January 1st. All married same-gender couples will also have adoption rights and equal access to fertility services. The November 17th announcement follows Swiss voters' overwhelming endorsement of Parliament's Marriage for All law. Right-wing opponents had forced the September 26th public referendum. Maria van Kaenel of the Marriage for All campaign is celebrating the conclusion of a long struggle. "We have been fighting for marriage equality for 30 years, she said.
The International Olympic Committee announced new guidelines covering transgender and intersex athletes this week, and there are mixed reviews. The IOC had promised to review its policies governing trans competitors after some controversy over their participation at this year's Tokyo Games. The new guidelines focus more on whether or not an athlete has a competitive advantage rather than predicting their potential performance based on testosterone levels. They say that no athlete should be excluded based on unverified, alleged, or perceived unfair competitive advantage due to their sex variations, physical appearance, and/or transgender status. There are also provisions protecting their privacy rights. However, the 6-page document is not legally binding. It passes the buck for implementing the guidelines to the governing bodies of regional and international sports federations. In its words, the IOC is not in position to issue regulations that define eligibility criteria for every sport, discipline, or event across the very different national jurisdictions and sport systems. IOC spokesman Christian Klaw acknowledged the problem. He said, "We have not found the solution to this big question. Clearly, this is a topic that will be with us for a long time."
The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services is rescinding the previous administration's religious license to discriminate, proving again that elections do matter. The November 18th advisory calls exemptions that allowed religiously based discrimination against LGBTQ people by federally funded state and child welfare agencies inappropriate and overly broad. It declares HHS will not condone the blanket use of religious exemptions against any person or blank checks to allow discrimination against any persons, importantly including LGBTQ plus persons, in taxpayer-funded programs. The department now returns to its earlier policy of allowing Religious Freedom and Restoration Act exemptions only on a case-by-case basis. Maggie Siddiqui is the Senior Director of Religion and Faith at the Center for American Progress. She explained, Congress enacted the Religious Freedom Restoration Act to protect the free exercise of religion, particularly for religious minorities. Today's actions by the Biden administration will ensure no child is denied a loving foster home simply because of who their prospective parents are, who they love, or what they believe. Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra said, Our actions ensures we are best prepared to protect every American's right to be free of discrimination.
Christian florist Baronelle Stutzman has called it quits in her 8-year crusade to refuse flowers for a same-gender couple's wedding. Plaintiff Robert Ingersoll was a regular patron of Arlene's Flowers in Richland, Washington. He and Kurt Freed had each bought flowers for the other there during their courtship. But when Stutzman became aware that the couple was ordering flowers for their wedding, she refused. She called Ingersoll a dear friend, but said that because of her Southern Baptist beliefs, the request was a line I could not cross, even for friendship. I am a Christian, and I believe the Bible to be the Word of God that teaches that He designed marriage to be only the union of one man and one woman. I could not take the artistic talents God Himself gave me and use them to contradict and dishonor His Word. Now a hero in religious right circles, Stutzman claims that she herself has been a victim of intolerance. At the age of 77, the florist says she's decided to retire and pass the torch. She's exhausted her legal appeals, including a failed effort to get the U.S. Supreme Court to review the case. A settlement allowing her to preserve her conscience includes a payout to Ingersoll of $5,000. Ingersoll and Freed say they'll donate it to their local chapter of the queer family advocacy group PFLAG, along with their own $5,000 donation.
The Putin regime's escalating crackdown on anything queer positive in Russia continued this week. Regulatory authorities took down the website of the highly popular side-by-side LGBTQ film festival. The annual event has been based in the seaside city of St. Petersburg since 2008. The festival is being held virtually for the second time this year because of the pandemic. Despite the closure of the festival's main website, its online screenings continue because they're being hosted by a third party. However, more extensive information about this year's offerings has been disappeared. Organizers believe that government officials bowed to pressure from rabidly anti-queer ultra-right-wing groups. Festival founder, Manny DeGeer, announced, We are forging ahead with our program, encouraging audiences to watch the films online, and our daily interactive discussions being aired through our social networks. VK, Instagram, and Facebook are currently serving as our channels for communication. The action against the side-by-side LGBTQ film festival follows last week's determination that the Russian LGBT network should be labeled a foreign agent. The government charges that the network gets illegal funding from suspect entities abroad and that it engages in forbidden political activity.
Finally, a town in the Australian island state of Tasmania, once known as the most homophobic town in the country, raised the rainbow flag over its city council chambers in a special ceremony this week. Oliverstone is on the state's northwest coast and home to about 15,000 people. In the 1990s, it routinely hosted anti-queer rallies, and many city leaders were outspokenly homophobic. Queer travel guides urged LGBTQ tourists to steer clear of the city. But as the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. promised, the arc of history is long, but it bends towards justice. In 2018, the council passed a motion in support of the queer community, placed an inclusion plaque, and planted a tree in a local park, and lit the town bridge in rainbow colors to mark Tasmania's Pride Week. The November 15th flag-raising ceremony comes ahead of the region's biggest LGBTQ pride celebration, out in the park. Equality Tasmania President Rodney Croom was one of the speakers. He's the country's longest-serving and best-known rights activist, and grew up near Oliverstone. Croom said he never imagined the progress since then. He added, raising the rainbow flag over the council chambers in Oliverstone sends a message to LGBTQ young people that they belong, helps heal old wounds, and shows the world just how much Oliverstone has changed. It says that anything, is possible.
That's NewsWrap, global queer news with attitude for the week ending November 20th, 2021. Follow the news in your area and around the world. An informed community is a strong community.
NewsWrap is written by Greg Gordon, edited by Lucia Chappelle, produced by Brian DeShazer, and brought to you by you.
Help keep us in ears around the world at thiswayout.org, where you can also read the text of this newscast and much more.
And you can read the transcript and listen to NewsWrap each week by subscribing to our This Way Out radio channel on YouTube. For This Way Out, I'm MR Raquel. Stay healthy.
And I'm Michael LeBeau. Stay safe.
This Way Out delivers LGBTQ news and culture to more than 150 local communities on radio stations around the world. And we are also a free online news service.
You can choose your favorite way to listen, online or on the air, at thiswayout.org.
Please sign up for our free e-newsletter, Inside This Way Out.
We'll respect your trust in us and make sure your personal information is never shared with others.
Just send us an email at info@thiswayout.org to receive the informative and unique addition to the show.
You'll be invited to join us for a more in-depth look into our stories and be encouraged to learn more about This Way Out's 3 decades of broadcast activism.
We hope you choose to join us in celebration of LGBTQ history and culture.
Email us at info@thiswayout.org to join the movement.
We'll make sure you always know what's going on inside This Way Out.